Hello, I'm Matt Galloway, and this is the Current Podcast.
The Paris Olympics are fast approaching. A week tomorrow, athletes from around the world will walk in the opening ceremonies. Summer and Winter Olympian and Olympic bronze medalist Phylicia George will be there. In past games, she's competed in hurdles and bobsledding. This time, she's taken it all in from a different perspective. She'll be on the ground talking to athletes and reporting from Canada Olympic House for CBC, and also be featured in a spoken word poem alongside Canadian poet Randell Adjei, which will be broadcast before the opening ceremony. Phylicia, hello.
Hi, Duncan. Thanks for having me.
Glad to be here. A spoken word poem. How do you go from being an Olympian to becoming a poet?
You know, it is actually pretty funny because I kind of found this creative side of myself. You know, being an athlete is so much about being instinctual and self-expression. And so, I found spoken word and poetry through that. And we created this really amazing piece about just expressing what it is to be an athlete and the goal that we have inside of ourselves.
I want to ask you about the piece, but when did you start writing?
I would say I was always a writer, maybe through university. And
see, I would have thought you'd go into sciences, not arts, because you passed up the chance to go to med school to become an Olympian. So Where did that creative side come from?
I just think towards the end of my career, I just started seeing how you can find this aspect of like self-expression. Some of my best races, actually, it was like these moments that felt so transcendent. And so I just really started to explore that a little bit more. And it's funny because I started to feel some of the feelings that I felt through running in writing, that moment of like flow state and almost feeling like, something is like flowing through you. And so I almost kind of felt like it pulled me in the same way that track kind of called me. I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to do this. I almost feel like writing and poetry called me as well.
You talk about breaking chains and not being silent anymore in one of the spoken word pieces that you have. What were the chains that kept you quiet?
It's interesting. I think it's just a lot of realizing maybe the ways that we've been socialized. I think for me, personally as a woman, as a Black woman, you just realize there's very subtle things that happened in your life that make you feel like, oh, maybe I'm less than, maybe my voice doesn't matter as much. And kind of reclaiming that voice. And I think that's a really beautiful thing about poetry and writing as well, is having a free space to express yourself exactly as you want. I think I also did that in sport as well. We live in a society where sometimes we create hierarchies. And for me, it really is about breaking those chains and helping people to really feel and understand that, we all have a gift to share. I think that's what's beautiful about the Olympics as well. It's just this idea around the whole world coming together, unified in like kind of that universal language of sport.
Let's talk about the spoken word poem you're going to be presenting at the Paris Olympics, The Gold Within. What's the message you're hoping to deliver there?
Super excited to have done that. I wrote the poem with Randell. It was my first time collaborating actually on a poem. And, it was really just this idea around the athlete's journey is everybody's journey. I fell in love with sport when I was 9, and I just had this fire that was burning inside of me. And I think a lot of people can relate to having this thing that they really want to do that feels so big and almost impossible. But the beautiful thing about this piece is really about understanding, like when you say yes to that challenge, you go through this path of transformation and you get to find, that gold within. And we often think that the gold is, that victory at the end. But I think if life has taught me anything, it really is that idea around the journey being such a big part of it. And what you find through the journey is really oftentimes the gold. And so the piece is really about helping, our Canadian audience who are getting ready to watch these Olympians on stage understand that they're much more similar to them than they even realize.
So many life lessons in sports. Of course, there's no I in team. That's one you often hear. You mentioned working with Randell Adjei, Ontario's first poet laureate, on this poem. What was it like working with him?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, it was such a collaborative effort across the board to create this piece. We actually also had Dallas Sunyas, who was directing us, and he was a former volleyball player. And then Tim Thompson was helping us with audio and visual. And it was just like a really big collaborative effort. And working with Randell, I think I was bringing my personal experience as an athlete, as an Olympian, and he was bringing that side of like being in the audience and watching, feeling inspired. And obviously he is an amazing poet as well. And I just think when you come together, like I said before, people bringing together their talents, you can create something so much bigger than yourself. And I think that just parallels what the Olympics means as well, or the athletic journey is all these people coming together. You have your coach, you have your physio, you have, maybe your nutritionist, and you're trying to create something so much bigger than yourself. And so that's really what this piece felt like as well.
Phylicia George, you are one of those rare athletes that competed at both the Summer and the Winter Olympics. And I was, to prep for this interview, I was looking at some of the old tape and your bronze medal bobsleigh race. And I got to ask you, I mean, going from being a track athlete to saying, okay, I'm going to, slam down the course in a bobsleigh in the winter. What was that like when you first, do you remember that first bobsleigh run where you said, I'm going to try this?
Yeah, I do actually.
What was that like?
So the first time I went down was in Whistler. And honestly, when they first recruited me, I said no. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm top 8 in the world right now. Like, I'm good. And I'm a little bit crazy and I like challenges. I like transforming myself. But yeah, that first time going down, I promise you, I was so scared. I literally had to just, tell myself, like, this is only going to take 50 seconds. Like, you got to bring every ounce of courage that you have to this moment right now. I even remember I actually didn't get down in the sled low enough. And so there was just all these G forces that are pressing down on my neck. And I remember for 2 weeks, I had to almost hold my head up with my hands. But funny thing is, I step out of the sled and I still was like, okay, I'll go and do it again.
Wow.
I just think it's something beautiful about, challenging yourself in new ways. I think that's maybe probably why, I'm venturing, like you said, into the arts instead of the sciences. It's what else can I find in myself? Like, how else can I discover something new about who I am?
Can you give us some insight into what the weeks ahead of the Olympics are like for athletes who are getting ready to compete?
This is like game time right now. And, there's often just so much distractions right now. Olympic time, everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants to talk to you. And for me, when I would be prepping for an Olympics, it really was just a matter of putting myself in a little bit of a box to make sure I could stay focused, stay away from distractions. And this is just fine tuning time right now. You want to just be going into a games confident. And so you're doing all the things that make you feel good, that make you feel great to make sure you're going to be at your best. How
did you fight off the nerves? Because there's got to be a whole bundle of nerves going on for this one big event.
I actually, sometimes you got to play mind tricks with yourself. I would just almost try to downplay the fact that I was going to the Olympics. And I always used to just tell myself, this is another track meet and it's a track. And it's 10 hurdles, and you've done this since you were 15. And so you know what you're doing. And so I always just went into meets with the understanding of, this was just another meet that I was going to, and I've worked really hard to be there. My first NCAA championships, I actually had a coach who told me, you will rise to the moment if you give yourself the opportunity to. So I always carry that with me.
You bet. And there are a whole bunch of Olympians getting ready to compete for Team Canada right now, and some that are especially making their Olympic debut. I just wonder if you could share some words of wisdom with them if they happen to be listening in.
The biggest thing I would want for our Canadian athletes getting ready to compete is to just be willing to go out there and have fun. You got to stay focused. But as I look back, I just really realized it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. In London, I was standing in a stadium with 80,000 people, an electric stadium with so much energy. And, to just take that split second to look up, to be like, wow, this is it. I'm here. I made a childhood dream a reality, to be really proud of that and to just go for it. Competition for me was always a space of freedom. You have what you have at this time. So you just got to let it go.
Phylicia George, thank you so much for sharing time with us. Enjoy awesome. Paris.
Thank you, Duncan.
Phylicia George is a 3-time Canadian Olympian. She'll be in Paris covering the games for CBC.